Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and can you spot the fake? Now, a few years ago, when I originally started to collect Super Nintendo games, I told myself that I wasn't going to go for anything complete in box because it's really difficult to find Super Nintendo boxes that are in really good shape. A lot of these boxes are 25, 30 years old. And when you're dealing with things like paper and cardboard as the main protective shell for a game, they just wear over time a lot easier. They're more susceptible to moisture damage, just natural wear and tear. And they don't wear as well as something like a Sega Genesis clamshell case. So when I originally started collecting for Super Nintendo, I told myself that I would go cartridge only. Now, as I started to get the games, I realized it was difficult to stack them on a shelf, or even display them the way that I wanted. So a big part of me said, you know, why don't I try the artificial box route? Because at least I would get a box that's a little more sturdy and that would be a little bit more easy to stack. Now, the Sega Genesis is completely different. You know, you can collect for the Sega Genesis and find really good Sega Genesis games complete in box with a clamshell that are in really good condition, because the Sega Genesis clamshells really wore a lot better over time. And I mean, here's an example. Forgotten Worlds is not a really expensive game at all, but here goes an example of a Sega Genesis clamshell that just wears better over time. These clamshells are more durable, right? They're more sturdy. They're made of like this really tough plastic. I mean, this stuff is tough. You know, these clamshell cases are 30 years old or more, and they just are able to maintain their structural integrity and preserve the games a lot better, right? And generally they cost less. Like Sega Genesis games just in general cost less than Super Nintendo games, but you're able to find these complete in box at a better price. When it comes to Super Nintendo, even if it's like a lame game, if it's complete in box, you're going to wind up paying more for it just because it's Super Nintendo. So I opted to go for one of two things when it came to finding a housing for my Super Nintendo games. Either I was going to go with these like custom cases, which I think these custom cases are amazing. I really do like them. I can't remember who makes these, but I feel like these ones are really, really sick. They still include some amazing looking gameplay photos on the back. They still give you a little bit about the game, the story. They have a lot of that Nintendo novelty surrounding the game. And then when you open it up, you just have a really cool casing there for the game. And I guess if I ever did find a Metal Warriors manual and I wanted to kind of throw that in there, I could. And it would just be a great way to house and display the game, because it does kind of list the game on the spine of the case, and it's just a really cool way to kind of display Super Nintendo games. But there was a point where I was like, how close can I get to the original thing without having to spend that money? And when I initially went to go find the reproduction case, I went on Etsy, and I was able to find a few different manufacturers on Etsy that made reproduction Super Nintendo boxes, and I found one for my Loose Cart Turtles in Time, and I went ahead and picked that up. Now, luckily for me, about a year or so ago, I was able to do a huge Nintendo Switch trade, and it was really more like a buyout. I sold, I want to say about 70 to 80% of my Switch collection. I got some really good value for it, and as I was making the sale, the person that I was selling them to, they did have some complete in box original Super Nintendo games, and Turtles in Time was one of them. And even though I had the loose cart, I've always wanted a complete in box copy of Turtles in Time, because that was one of the Super Nintendo games that I played a ton when I was younger. So I got it despite having the repro box. And so I figured once I got it, I would do a side-by-side comparison, and just holding it back this far back, can you tell which is the real and which is the fake? And I'll let you leave your comments down below about which one you thought was the real and which one you thought was on the fake. So is the one on the left the real one, or is the one on the right the real one? And let me know what you thought down in the comments before I actually showed you which one is the real and which one is the fake, because I'm about to show you right now. And so some of you may be able to tell, some of you might not be able to tell but this one is actually the reproduction. And this is the real one. I'm just kidding. No, this is the reproduction. Some of you are like, bro, stop lying. No, I'm lying. So this is actually the reproduction box. And this is the original Super Nintendo Turtles in Time box. And I'm going to take them out of their cases because both are currently housed in these plastic cases for protection, for additional protection. And so I'm going to take them out and show you the difference. But I got to say, even though this one is the reproduction, they did a really good job with this. And I'll bring them closer so that you can see what we're dealing with here. So we'll do a little bit of a side-by-side comparison on this here. So as you can see, this is the reproduction Turtles in Time. And let me just take it out the plastic here so that we can get a better look at this guy. 1 second here. I'm going to take this out of its plastic shell. All right. And drop that onto the floor. So this is the reproduction box. Now, I think that they did a really good job with this for it being a repro. You know, without having like an original sitting right next to me, I would have to say that this looks pretty daggone good. And if I was not willing to spend the amount for a complete in box Turtles in Time, this is a great alternative if you're thinking about just having a box to display, or you're thinking about putting something on the shelf. Now I'm going to take my actual game out of the case here so I can do a out of the plastic case side-by-side comparison. And this one is going to be a little bit harder to get out because there is a difference in the material, and we'll go over that as well. All right, so now they're both out of their plastic casings, and right off the bat, there's a few things that you can tell that are different. So you can tell that this one, the original, has more of like a glaze or like a gloss to it. Has a little bit more of like a shine on it when you kind of hold it up against the light. And this one definitely has more of like that matte finish. You could tell it's not the same type of paper. Also, like when you open the box up, this cardboard is just way more thick. Let me just show you here. So as you can see, this is more of like a school grade kind of cardboard. It's not as thin as like a sheet of paper. It definitely has some thickness to it, but this one clearly is more of like that industrial 90s tough stuff kind of cardboard to it. It has more of that brown inside as opposed to this one, which has more of the white inside. But going down here to just looking at the boxes themselves, as you can see here, the red on the reproduction is a little bit more saturated, even when it comes to like how saturated it is for the Ninja Turtles. And you can see there's not as much detail. Like once you kind of zoom in, it gets a little bit muddy. The graphics there get a little bit muddy. They get a little bit more foggy. Whereas on the original Super Nintendo, everything is pretty much crisp. You can see all the art detail. Even if you zoom in, clearly you can see Michelangelo grinding his teeth there. You see the Statue of Liberty. Everything just looks a bit more detailed. Even the Konami symbol is a lot more sharp. Whereas the Konami symbol on the reproduction, you can tell it was like, it's a repro. But again, if I didn't have the original like right next to it, it would be a little tough to tell. I mean, if you look at the red, I mean, just even looking at the red that they use, right? The inks that they use, they're very, very close to the original. This is the reproduction Super Nintendo red, and I'm holding it up against the original Super Nintendo red. And you can, like, my eyes cannot really even tell the difference. This one is a little bit more saturated, and I know the lighting in this room kind of throws everything off. It's not the best lighting, but you can see that difference there. Now let's go ahead and I have my loose cart, my loose Turtles in Time cart over on the shelf, but just for the sake of comparison, this not only did it come with the box, but this reproduction is really cool because it comes with a box and it comes with a reproduction manual, which I thought was sick. So it also comes with a tray, which I thought was really cool. It comes with like the Super Nintendo insert tray, which I think they did a better job with the insert tray than the actual box. And then it comes with this reproduction manual. So look at that repro manual. I mean, that's not bad at all. I gotta say, like, you know, these folks over in Etsy, they did an amazing job. So if I didn't have, like, if I wasn't able to find a complete in box copy of Turtles in Time, to me, this tray, this repro box, and this repro manual, I was able to get all of these together. And I believe I only paid like 15 bucks for this. So not bad at all. A great way to just kind of, like I said, if you have a loose card, if you found a loose card of Turtles in Time, like at a yard sale or something like that, and you wanted to just kind of be able to display it, this is a great option. Now, if we just do a comparison, I'm going to take the contents out of the real Turtles in Time box so we could do another comparison, and you'll notice that there's some differences here as well. So here goes the Super Nintendo instruction manual. So again, if we're just doing a quick side-by-side comparison, so the fake, there's a much bigger color difference when it comes to the manuals, right? So you can tell with this manual here, again, the colors, they seem a bit more faded on the repro, whereas they're a lot more saturated on the original. Clearly on the original, this back in the day, you had the Farley's fruit snacks. So this one came with the coupon inside. And there's just like a difference in the coloring for the turtles. Again, you get some more of that muddy looking artwork on the repro, whereas everything is a lot more clear, a lot more crisp. The artwork is on the original. And then this repro manual is a little bit smaller, like it's a little bit shorter than the original. As you can see there's just that little bit of a difference there. But I mean, overall, still really good quality. I mean, if I didn't have the original manual next to me, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. This manual, while it is in good condition, it does have a little bit of wear and tear on it. It's not like in perfect condition or anything like that. And as you can see, this one, each page does have a little more gloss to it, and everything is just a lot more sharp on this one here. And then obviously you have the cart here. Now, one of the other things that I did want to compare was just the insert trays. So again, the paper that's used on the tray insert is just a little bit more, it's light. It's not as heavy duty. I'm just going to take the cart out here and just set the Ninja Turtles cart off to the side. Beautiful cart, by the way. But as you can see, the inserts are a bit different as well. So here they use this more just like standard looking tray insert that they may have just, you know, printed off on some regular paper, or maybe they just, I'm not sure how they printed this or put this together, but it's lighter. It doesn't feel as durable. This one obviously has the hole in the middle. The paper is more of that industrial grade paper that you would get back in the 90s. Everything in the 90s just felt more tough, more rugged than what you get now. So, and this tray insert is just a little bit more thick than the repro, and there's almost like a little bit of a shade difference here. So this one, the original has more of like a sail color to it, whereas the repro is just straight white. So you know, again, I think that overall, again, a really good job with these repro manuals and these repro cases. If I can remember where I got this, because I got this like a year or so ago, or I can't remember how long ago. I think it's been at least a year since I've gotten this. I'll try to link the description down in the comments so that you can know where to pick this up. But if you're thinking about, you know, beefing up your collection, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to kind of be able to kind of put your games in a box and kind of come up with a better display for your Super Nintendo games, because Super Nintendo games are harder. Finding these games complete in box, and this is the original box again. Finding these, paying for these can be really expensive. So if you can help it, I'm just putting this back in the case here. But if you can help it, I wouldn't spend the money on a complete in box Super Nintendo game. The only complete in box Super Nintendo games that I have are the ones that I've traded for. I've never purchased a complete in box Super Nintendo game. They're just ridiculously expensive. And then especially when you start getting into more of the expensive Super Nintendo games like Hagane, Metal Warriors, you know, Space Megaforce, Earthbound, now you're looking at paying in the thousands, and I refuse to pay thousands of dollars for some cardboard. You know, it's just, I don't care how old the cardboard is. That I have my limits when it comes to nostalgia. I have my limits when it comes to having original hardware. And once you start getting in the thousands and high hundreds, it's just too much for me. But let me know what you think down in the comments. What do you think? Do you think that the comparisons are close? Do you think that it's worth getting the repro, or do you think you're better off just going with the original thing? Let me know. It's the Y2K Collector, just starting the day off with a quick comparison. Hope you're going to have a pretty awesome Saturday, and I've got a really cool video planned for this weekend. So I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.